It is day 36, 9:18 a.m. in the Big Brother UK All-Stars house. And we see that Emma Willis has joined Cameron and Gemma outside. They're both out there for the Ministry of Peace duties. However, Emma has just willingly decided to sleep outside on a stone bench for whatever reason. Meanwhile, Gemma is relaxing in the hot tub, and Cameron is hanging up some laundry to dry. It's pretty easy to be a Ministry of Peace member now, especially with no chickens being alive anymore. Inside, we see that Gary's ghost just struts through the house, goes right through the bedroom, through the bathroom, and exits through the shower. It doesn't really terrify that many people apart from Allison. I feel like it's one of the only people that noticed. Meanwhile, both Cameron and Gemma were way too occupied running inside, trying to get some shelter from the now approaching thunderstorm. It's getting pretty bad out there, and I might eventually have to lock down the doors. We see that Emma is being rudely awakened by the storm and is now making her way inside as well. At 10:27 a.m., Big Brother has decided to lock down the garden to make sure everyone is safe inside from the thunderstorm. And Cameron and Gemma are taking that time, as they're now solely sequestered in the bathroom, to try to get some sleep. However, we see that all of the house guests are now wide awake. Big Brother has gone ahead and turned on the lights in the bedroom, and now all of the house guests are getting ready to start their day. So that's going to prove difficult for Cameron and Gemma, who are trying to sleep in the bathroom. Meanwhile, everyone else is coming in there to use the bathroom, brush their teeth, take a shower, and of course break as many toilets and sinks and showers as possible. We see that Pete, Brian, Charley, and Cameron are just kind of sitting there watching the storm go down. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, it looks as though Davina and Makosi and Josie were all kind of just chilling on their phones. Emma's trying to nap inside on the couch instead of outside. And then we see that Craig and Luke are kind of cleaning and doing some ministry duties. And of course, as soon as Craig finishes up making his food, everyone now decides to come and join in on the cooking now that he's done. So they're basically just coming over to congratulate him for finishing it, but kind of patronizing him and then seasoning the floor on their own. Meanwhile, it looks as though Nadia and Ryland have gone back to sleep in the bedroom, and with everyone kind of finishing up in the bathroom, both Cameron and Gemma are able to continue sleeping as well. Everyone is still in the kitchen, just kind of grabbing a meal or just now coming in to join in on the cooking. And then most of them are going out into the living room or the bedroom to eat. It looks as though here in the living room, Emma has woken up and is talking to Davina and Allison, who doesn't seem to like her sandwich too much.
Flizza. Jabin. Bouchard.
At 11:41 a.m., right in time for lunch, the storm has officially passed, so Big Brother was able to go ahead and open and unlock all of the doors into the garden. No one is rushing to get out there, though. The only person that's out there right now is Luke, who is just going out there to grab the dirty dishes that sadly did not get washed in the rain. And also, for some more bad news, the Ministry of Truth's turn in room 101 is officially started, so they do not get to enjoy the garden. Instead, they will all be stuffed inside room 101. Hopefully, though, it doesn't just turn into another huge orgy session, as I don't really want to have to deal with that. And it looks as though Emma is straight to the toilet as soon as she gets in there. That is kind of the one good thing about room 101, apart from having fun on the computers. There is like a nice toilet that you can use, a little bit of privacy almost. Meanwhile, in the garden, the chores are, still need to be done. So the clothes are now still sopping wet, and Allison seemed to be trying to do some laundry. Meanwhile, Nadia is cleaning up some dishes in the kitchen while Davina eats some food. In the bathroom, we see that Charley is taking a shower while Pete's watching, and then Luke is watching Josie and Makosi take a shower. It's very weird when they just kind of stand in here. And then also sometimes when they take their clothes off in the shower room, the clothes like prevent them from leaving. So that's kind of awkward. They sometimes get stuck in there very easily. Same with the stalls. We see that it's very easy for multiple people to get into a stall, and then one of them gets stuck in there, and it just creates a really awkward situation. Davina has finished up her meal, and she is now in conversation with Ryland and Nadia. Pete soon, though, comes and joins to go grab that dishes and clean that up for her, while Makosi takes that other seat and starts continuing on with this conversation. In room 101, nothing too spicy is happening. Brian is playing some Sims, while Isabelle is talking to imaginary friends on the phone, and Emma is just ready to go to sleep. She's like, if I'm not having sex, I'm sleeping. At 1:11 p.m., Big Brother decides it is now time for the Ministry of Love to go ahead and do their duty of confronting their nominees. However, we're going to do this one by one, and we're going to call each member of the Ministry of Love into the diary room. So first up is going to be our bad girl, Charley. So we call her into the diary room, and then we're also going to call in her two nominees. They're going to come in here, and the three of them are going to have it out for a limited time here in the diary room by themselves. So as we know, Charley has nominated Ryland, so he goes ahead and makes his way into the diary room, as well as Pete. Once inside, it immediately begins as Charley instantly is pointing fingers and yelling and throwing insults towards Ryland. Meanwhile, Pete isn't even really paying that much attention. He's trying to just look at the walls and act like he's not really there. However, once he hears what's being said and Charley starts throwing insults at him, he actually kind of finds the whole thing a little bit hilarious. Of course, Charley is laughing in an evil, maniacal sense, but Pete is kind of finding the whole thing funny. I think he just thinks Charley is a bit of a joke. However, Ryland is actually seeming to be getting a little bit upset, a little bit hurt. I think if anyone's going to actually walk out of here with hard feelings, it probably would be him. However, right now, it is still kind of calm. It was really fiery at first. However, it all seems to be mediated a little bit. I think that's exactly how Charley operates. As we know, she starts fights and then immediately tries to cool them off, only to start the fire up again a little bit later. So it looks as though the argument with this is done. So we're going to go ahead and have them leave the diary room and go ahead and call in our next Ministry of Love member. So my plan was for Makosi to go next. However, she's too busy strutting across the house, butt naked. She ends up going into the bedroom eventually. No one's really paying her any attention. We see that when Ryland actually leaves the diary room, he walks right past her, doesn't even notice her, and just goes straight into the kitchen to make himself a drink. I think that little tiny bit of an argument really did kind of get to him as he pours himself a big glass of red wine. Meanwhile, Charley ends up heading outside to sunbathe and relax in the garden, and once Makosi actually finishes everything up in the bedroom, then she finally makes her way into the diary room.
Ooh, ooh.
Now, because Makosi actually nominated Brian, this gives Brian a little bit of an opportunity to leave room 101 for just a little bit. He looks insanely bored out of his mind, so hopefully this gives him a little bit of entertainment. Meanwhile, her second nomination of Gemma is on her way to the diary room now.
Huge.
So immediately we're confronted with Brian being butt naked out of nowhere for no reason. I honestly have no clue why he is. And Makosi instantly starts, digging at Gemma, telling her the reasons why she nominated her. And Brian does eventually put some clothes on. However, it seems to have inspired a different kind of mood from Makosi. She feels a little bit differently about Brian now. And instead of picking a fight with him, they actually decide to start woohooing right on the diary room chair, right in front of Gemma. Gemma is just kind of stuck there watching for a little bit, so I go ahead and I pull Gemma out of the diary room. While Makosi and Brian continue having some fun there. That's definitely not the confrontation I thought was going to happen, but Brian definitely is getting some entertainment outside of room 101. He is extremely lucky. I mean, we're constantly losing guys in this house. We really only have a tiny little handful of men left, but all of them are so sexually active. They all get it on with everyone. Gemma goes ahead and joins the big group that's kind of outside, still bathing in the sun, hanging out, eating some food that looks like gruel or something. It looks really horrible. It doesn't look good. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it got made on the grill. And with Pete's face, that kind of confirms that it isn't too good. Meanwhile, Charley's been sunbathing for a while now, and she is really starting to glow. By 4:21 p.m., Makosi and Brian have kind of wrapped up what they were doing in the diary room, and Makosi finally makes her way out of there as Brian heads back to room 101, and it is now Josie's turn to come into the diary room and confront her nominees. And as soon as she walks in, she seems to love the smell that's still left in the air of Brian and Makosi's time together, which just grosses me out. And also, we see there's a celebration going on in room 101, and yep, Emma is pregnant with, I'm assuming, is Brian's baby. Our first pregnancy. I didn't really think a pregnancy was possible. I guess that somehow got messed up in my MC command center. So we now have our first big brother baby on the way. Big news there. Meanwhile, Isabelle and Davina have come to the diary room, as Josie did nominate both of them. And this is kind of controversial, as Davina actually was the house guest that chose Josie to leave the lab and come become an official house guest in the main house. And Davina seems to be pretty surprised over the fact that Josie nominated her, but she doesn't seem to be taking it, too bad. She still has a big smile on her face and is still kind of joking. Meanwhile, Isabelle actually seems upset. Josie does sling some insults at her while telling her why she nominated her, and Isabelle kind of fires right back and seems to actually be pretty annoyed, and this could potentially start a feud between the two of them, where I don't actually think that is going to happen between Davina and Josie. Davina doesn't seem to have too many hard feelings going on, and maybe that's because she is on the block, so she just knows that multiple people said the same thing, and where Isabelle isn't on the block, so it's kind of a rare few amount of people in the house that's nominating her, and for it to be this random house guest that just entered, I'm sure that's a little bit shocking for her.
Apolachaba? Zobi Isabelle? Apolachaba?
Once tempers finally start to calm down, at least from a majority of the house guests in the diary room, Isabelle goes ahead and returns angrily to room 101. Meanwhile, it seems as though Josie and Davina are actually getting a bit cold. The AC in the house was on, and that is going to have to change, as after that thunderstorm we just had, it is now slowly beginning to snow just a little bit. I gotta say, the weather here, I'm in Windenburg, and the weather is just insane. It's constantly changing. I don't really know what's going on, and also a lot of some time has passed, so maybe that has to do with it. We see that outside in the garden, Nadia and Pete are kind of hanging out. Meanwhile, it looks as though Luke is sleeping in the hot tub. And we're going to go ahead and call Allison into the diary room to do her Ministry of Love duties. And she also seems to like the smell that's in there. Don't know if it's still the Makosi and Brian smell. Not sure. Sadly, though, we do have to go ahead and wake Ryland up, who was asleep in the bedroom. And he's going to have to come to the diary room as he was one of Allison's nominations. And we also have to go ahead and call Craig into there.
Clevite benu sublurf. Gibarau.
Now, it looks as though Allison is actually pretty annoyed. She does have like a little bit of an angry look in her eyes. And that's rare from Allison. She's definitely always a happy-go-lucky, cheerful, jokey kind of person. So even though she is trying to smile, she does seem to still be a little bit annoyed at the two of them. However, the two of them don't seem to be mad at her whatsoever. And they both seem to be in really good spirits. And eventually they all are just laughing and enjoying each other's time, which I feel like would happen with Allison. She's just such a fun person to be around that I think even if she was saying mean things to me, I would still be laughing thinking she's joking or something. So we're not going to get too much confrontation out of that, so we go ahead and let them leave the diary room as we are slowly wrapping up how many Ministry of Love members we have left to fill their duty. And at 7:51 p.m., the Ministry of Truth's duty in room 101 is officially over, and they are all able to go ahead and leave and head back into the main house. However, we still have a couple more Ministry of Love members to have their little briefing in the diary room. And next up is actually going to be Luke. However, right now he's in the hot tub with Pete by his side. We see that Isabelle leaves room 101 and heads straight into the hot tub with Luke. Meanwhile, Brian goes and heads over there, but is going to grab a bowl of Beanie Weenies. Eventually, Luke does leave the hot tub. He changes into some actual clothes, gets out of that wet bathing suit, and heads into the diary room. But he really does take his sweet ass time.
Oh, chuncha.
So Luke's two nominations were for Nadia and Craig. Nadia is really quick to head on into the diary room. Meanwhile, Craig is actually in the shower doing a little bit of woohoo, I think, with Davina or someone with brown hair, I'm thinking. It looks as though Gemma kind of walked in there to tell him that he had to get to the diary room and then was confronted with seeing him get it on with someone in there. She seemed a bit shocked, but stayed in the shower. She didn't leave. Meanwhile, in the diary room, Luke is already going in on Nadia, telling her all of the reasons why he nominated her. And Craig walks in still naked, not bothering to put on any clothes. Luke and Nadia kind of just ignore him and continue their argument. Meanwhile, Craig steps outside to go ahead and grab some underwear to put on really quick. So he goes ahead, changes into those, and then starts railing into Luke. And this is the first confrontation that kind of ends in both the nominees just going in on the Ministry of Love member. It looks as though both Nadia and Craig are just not having it anymore. They're done listening to people's reasons for nominating them, and they're not going to take it from Luke. So they both just end up going off on him, and he actually ends up walking away from this more upset than either of them. I think either of them are kind of walking away feeling a little bit vindicated, a little bit, proud and relieved that they got some kind of vengeance back. And we see that Craig eventually just walks out of there. He kind of gets his last word in and steps out. Meanwhile, Luke really throws a big insult towards Nadia's way, and it seems to actually kind of get to her a little bit. And I'm interested to see in what everyone's relationships and how they've changed since everything that's gone down today. I think the Ministry of Love is potentially my favorite ministry if I just remember to actually fulfill their duties. However, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode here. Remember that Davina, Nadia, Ryland, and Craig are up for eviction this week, and 2 of them are going to be going home on Friday, and it's up to you to vote for your favorite. So you can either comment down below as many times as you want, or go ahead and head to my Twitter and vote on the poll over there. I will not be having an episode tomorrow, as now there is none on Wednesdays. However, I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.